important conversation. So we are going to pivot a bit from mining to talk about artificial intelligence. So today, to chat with me on this topic, we're very pleased to have with us Trevor Koverko. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for coming. And my mission on this talk is to paint the case and the thesis that AI and sustainability not only aren't at odds, but in fact, AI is needed for us to achieve our sustainability goals. So hopefully I can argue my case by the end of this discussion.
I hope so. So before we talk about AI per se, let's talk a little bit about Trevor. Trevor, you have been an ice hockey player. I have to say ice hockey because we have field hockey here. So you've been an ice hockey player. You've been an entrepreneur, still are. You've been a startup builder and the founder of Polymath and Tokens.com and Sapien. And so I want to start with a bit of a personal question. How has your outlook changed or evolved with every major crossroad in your life?
For me, I've always, for all my flaws, I think two things that have driven me since I was a kid, which is openness to change is one, and building. I love being a builder and being like in the ground floor of building something from the foundation up. And just back to the first part about change, I think we forget sometimes that as a society, we have once a decade or so major platform shifts. And it's hard to see it when you don't zoom out. And so I'd like to zoom out for a minute. And I'm old enough to know kind of all the ones in my lifetime. So in the 90s, maybe there was the kind of PC revolution when we all got like Windows 95 desktops. And that opened up a whole new world of not zero-sum, like I win, you lose kind of transactions. It's a brand new platform, new innovation, and new wealth to be created through software, through PCs. So that was the 90s. And then in 2000, who remembers the dot-com bubble? Show of hands. The internet wave. Yeah, that was crazy. And I think people take the wrong lesson from that, just as a little side to that. Like, yes, it was way overdone with the dot-com bust, but looking back, it's way bigger than it was back then. So I think we're going to see the same with AI, where it kind of jolts up and there's a pullback, but when we zoom out 10 or 20 years, it's going to change. So 2000s was the internet boom, and then I'd say 2010s was more the mobile revolution with the iPhone, and then we moved into kind of more modern day with blockchain and now AI. So we should be so grateful and thankful that we have another platform shift happening in our lifetime, and this one might be bigger than the rest combined.
But before there was AI, before there was IT, there was Trevor playing hockey, and then something happened.
Yeah, no, so sadly from my hockey days, I didn't have a lot of marketable job skills. In Canada, if you don't play hockey as a young boy, you actually get deported. It's a new rule they instituted. So that was my first job, and then I had kind of a very abrupt ending to that with a car accident, and so I had to kind of reinvent myself. And on the bad side, I didn't have a lot of skills to move into the new world when I kind of moved to Silicon Valley and spent a lot of time there. But it was kind of a good fresh start too, and I didn't have like preconceived attachments to any industry or legacy things. So that was kind of my brief story. But since then, I've been a technologist, mostly working on startups as an investor and a builder. And I would say some of my lessons from my hockey days that I didn't appreciate when I retired quickly, because I was kind of like, oh, I wish I was an engineer, I wish I was something else. But I think the margin to error of like being the best at something and teamwork, things like that, stayed with me throughout that.
Right. It's interesting that you said you remade yourself, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. But earlier you mentioned that AI and sustainability may seem to be at odds, but in reality, you don't think so. The truth is, for most of us who work in the sustainability space, we realize that AI is very resource hungry, right? Uses a lot of energy, quite a lot of water to cool the processors. So, let's discuss a little bit about the pros and cons of AI and where you land.
Well, I would go, it's a great question. I would go even broader and say, I would challenge the audience, name me one problem in society that cannot be solved by technology. So I'm a maximalist when it comes to AI and technology. You can pick a name out of a hat. Is it global warming? Is it water shortages? Is it food shortages? You can go down any of those lists, and I guarantee you that technology, whether it's fusion power, whether it's robotics for labor, whether it's vertical farming, whether it's using desalination plants. So a water shortage really isn't a water shortage problem. We have lots of water. It's a power problem because you need to push the salt water through the membranes to get drinking water. So I know here there's going to be a lot of discussions about, the sustainability problems of data centers. Maybe we could talk about that at some point as well. But I would encourage a little slant to think, hey, maybe we can be optimists here. Maybe it's innovation that can solve a lot of these problems, not just cutting back and AI minimalism that we hear a lot of.
Yeah, so for a country like Barbados, which is one of the top 15 most water-stressed countries in the world, we have to think about that along with the AI revolution. We have to think about a resource management strategy which allows for there to be sufficient drinking water for the humans and enough also to run the machines. But I mean, even while doing that, we see that AI is going to bring us other benefits, right? What are you thinking?
I think it's just the great equalizer. I use the other platform shift of our lifetime. I don't care if you're the king of Bahrain or you're someone where I'm from in Toronto who's maybe lower income. Everybody has the same thing, an iPhone. There's no better iPhone. They're all kind of the best. And that's what I would call an equalizing technology. It's democratized. It's distributed. And name me another modern platform shift that has those same dynamics. It's AI. Everybody, these frontier models, the only people that have better access to models than us are the people inside of Anthropic and OpenAI. The rest of us are all using the same, whether the king of Bahrain or us here or anybody in any income strata has access to the same technology. To me, that's we're missing the plot line here. That is the big thing here, is that we can all negotiate better with AI. We can all plan better. We can all use agents. I'd love to talk about some new things that we're doing internally to make our lives better and to automate things. So yes, there's a lot of doom and gloom. Yes, there's some areas to be concerned, but I think we're missing the plot if we don't think about how this is not just slightly fair and democratizing. This is the most democratizing thing. For $20 a month or free, you can have super intelligence. We may have been desensitized to that statement, but 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 2 years ago, if somebody said that, you'd say, this is science fiction.
True. So tell us about the tokenization aspect of it then. Since it's very democratic, tell us how tokens help make it more democratic.
Yeah, so the two passions for me right now, which I think are the two biggest macro trends in my lifetime, even including all those other internet, mobile, PCs, is the tokenization of financial assets and AI. And so as a builder, I've been working on projects in those two areas that I'm really excited about. Does RWA, I know this is an emerging thing, show of hands, we've heard of real world assets, tokenizing stocks, bonds, and real estate. Not many. So basically, we think that the global financial system is unfair. If you don't live in the United States or some other modern developed countries, it's hard to get access to the financial system. And what does that mean? It means more disadvantages. It means the disadvantages compound. It means you can't buy an ETF, which is one of the greatest products ever invented, to compound your wealth passively for your entire life because you don't have access to a brokerage account, etc. And even more tactical, like if you're American, it's hard to buy a Chinese stock directly. What if you want exposure without paying, the money manager mafia all these fees that eat away at your returns? So we're really excited about tokenizing the financial system, which means things run on a democratized, equal blockchain. These aren't like Bitcoin and Ethereum tokens that are kind of go up and down and what are they backed by? I'm a big believer in them too, but this is more in a real estate investment trust. It's a unit that's on a blockchain, a token. Or if it's an LP share in a fund, that's tokenized. And now they're more liquid, they're more accessible. So I'd encourage everybody to look into what's happening in real world assets as a category. If you look at people like Larry Fink at BlackRock, one of the most important companies in the world, my predictions sound very conservative compared to what he's saying. $100 trillion of financial assets are inevitably migrating and upgrading to the blockchain, and he's leading the way. He's tokenized a money market fund, which is now one of the fastest growing debut funds for BlackRock, period. And so lots of exciting stuff happening there, and I'm really excited to be working in that space.
So how can any one of us in this room get involved?
Lots of ways. I think, like any platform shift, there's not just one area to get exposure to it. You can be a passive investor, and you can invest in a company like Securitize, which will be going public soon. No affiliation, but that's one way to get associated. You can do a builder. You can build a new technology or a new protocol that helps scale the network itself. Or you could just be a user of the product and benefit from it that way. So check it out, Real World Assets. We won't talk about it for the rest of the presentation, but I think even though crypto goes up and down a lot, this is like a more pervasive systemic improvement to the plumbing of the financial system that I'm really excited about.
Awesome. So shifting a little bit to agentic AI, which we've all been hearing about. How are you using it at Polymath and Sapiens now?
Okay, so I'm not going to ask any more raise hand questions, but I'm going to guess most of us have ChatGPT. And it is an amazing product, and I have ChatGPT and I use it. But that's not what the cool kids are doing right now. That's kind of like yesterday's, ask a question, query, get a response. I would call it, like the internet, there was like reading and writing. So reading means you can click a website and read something, and writing means you can like post something that other people can read. So that was kind of like Web 1. With AI, part one of AI was reading. You can like query, hey, make me a plan to build my new guest house, and it gives you a plan. But right now, where all the excitement is in agentic execution, which means instead of just reading, you're actually doing. So that means not only is the AI going to be planning your job, it's actually going to do the work. So that's what agent means. It means these are digital objects that can actually do work for you and not just help you do the work. So I hope that distinction is clear, but a lot of the capital now, if you've heard of companies like Anthropic, that's what they're specializing in. If you've heard of technologies like OpenClaw, because ChatGPT is within a sandbox, and they deliberately limit what you can do. But now there's some really smart engineers that are blasting away the barriers of ChatGPT and putting AI directly inside your phone, directly inside your computer. It can actually take actions for you, and it can have your best interests in mind. You can say, this is my voice. I want you to learn how I type, how I speak. You can say, these are my values, and I want you to only take action based on my values. And you have this kind of unlimited pool of digital artifacts that can actually help you achieve your goals in life. And I don't think it's humans versus AI. I think it's more like AI helping us in a big way.
So even if we haven't used ChatGPT, most of us would have used Google and be automatically sent to Gemini, the AI function, to help us with our searches, right? So even if we don't think we're using it, somehow it's part of our life.
Can I give just a real-world example? So I was negotiating, I was going to rent a cottage in the summer. And what I used to do was I used to say, or here's my agent I'm negotiating with, make an offer, and then I would put it in ChatGPT, and then I would copy it, and then I would paste it, and then it would give me a reply, and then I would send it to the agent. So that's like part one of AI, of exciting, really good, I love that, I still do that. But what I do now is I actually have an agent that I give an objective to, and I say, find me this type of property in this location with this budget, and don't stop until the papers are on my desk with the best possible offer. So it's not me doing the work and kind of using AI to help me. It's actually giving an objective, and the AI figures it out as it goes along. That's called recursive learning. It's getting smarter on its own. It's learning how to get better. And so just an idea, you can imagine if you can extrapolate that to every part of your life, every part of your business. If you're a startup in Silicon Valley, like going through Y Combinator, every single company is expected to be a recursively improving startup now, meaning the brain of the company is all shared. It's all being queried against. Everybody has access to it, and you're using agents to help make decisions, to help do the work as well. So that's kind of what the new, not quite arrived to mainstream yet, but where we're going is agents doing work, agents talking to other agents. So I'm not going to be talking to my real estate agent soon. My agent's going to be talking to my real estate agent's agent. And so now the internet now, if you want to build a startup, this is what Y Combinator says. It's like a famous accelerator in Silicon Valley. Its famous line was, build things people want, so to solve problems. What does a human want? Help them. They just changed it a few months ago to build something agents want. So agents don't care about what your website looks like. It just wants access to the raw data. Agents don't care what time of day it is to close a sales call. They can do it 24/7. So that's a little taste of what I'm seeing in the West Coast, where a lot of the energy is right now.
So how do you think we could use agentic AI to solve sustainability challenges?
You know, I might have a bit of a outlier view here, but I think you can't have sustainability without growth. And that might be counterintuitive because, growth means growing population, growing energy production, and maybe there's only so many resources. But I actually believe if it wasn't for AI, by the way, we would be in a global recession. If you take away all the growth and revenue and market cap created by these AI companies, we're not doing too good aside from that. So we should be a little bit thankful that we're not in that dynamic right now because of what OpenAI did and a lot of other researchers, especially coming out of my home country, Canada, did to kind of create the modern AI movement. So to answer your question, I would say, number one, it's more growth, more wealth, more prosperity for everybody. Not equally, there's going to be people who get more than others, but the pie is getting bigger. So that's one thing. But more specifically, I think AI is going to help with individual projects as well. I just put a installation of solar at my place in Barbados. Without AI, I wouldn't have done it. It's too much work. I have too many questions. I'm not an electrician, but AI helped me do it. And I think if you extrapolate that out now to all parts of sustainability, whether it's energy, whether it's food, whether it's anything else, I think little projects like this extrapolated out are going to help make the world more sustainable.
Thanks. So you've moved to Barbados permanently now?
I have. I'm a proud resident of Barbados and happy to be here.
So tell us why you made that decision, and would you encourage others to do the same?
Absolutely. We were originally here not because I just picked an island on the map. We were directed to come here from Deloitte, actually. They said, based on your business goals, this is a good jurisdiction for what you're trying to do. And I'm Canadian, a lot of Canadians come here. There's a lot of good benefits to being Canadian and being in Barbados. But one year turned to another, and I just noticed it's not just the weather, it's not just, the jurisdictional things. There's really cool people here. And I was like, a friend of mine, and what I love about Barbados is we're growing together. None of us have made it to the end goal or anything. We're all building, and we can see each other grow, and we can help each other. A good friend of mine from here, who's probably the only guy who's a more Barbados proponent than me, is my friend Gabriel Abed, and he's the freaking chairman of Binance right now from the island, one of the biggest companies in the world. And to me, I just love that. I just love seeing people from here or people that live here building things together, working together, and even other people I'm meeting recently. A friend of mine, Paul, is building modular homes, and he's a software engineer that's living here, and now they're doing something really interesting. And I'm seeing a lot of good local talent that are developers that are working on AI projects. And it's for islands like Barbados, AI, there's no barriers. Agents don't care where you're from. They don't care what your net worth is. It's all, you can work from your laptop, and there's word that this year is going to be the first time there's a unicorn, which is $1 billion privately valued company, with one person. So a solo entrepreneur, and I'm not trying to say, $1 billion, that's the metric we should care about, but it just goes to show you the leverage that you have now with AI, that anybody, literally anybody, race, gender, color, can build something impactful with just an Android phone and an internet connection, and I think that's really inspiring.
For sure. So we're still looking for the next the first Caribbean unicorn. And so you think it could be built with AI, and what segment could it be in? Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks. For me, one area that everyone's talking about in my world is SaaS companies. You guys know SaaS, software as a service. It's a freight train of an industry. Salesforce, hundreds of billions of dollars of market cap. Those guys are all in jeopardy. AI companies now that are native to AI are rebuilding these giant, monolithic, entrenched software as a service businesses and saying, we can do it better, faster, cheaper as an agentic AI company. And we're seeing some of the fastest growing companies, not just by hype, like the dot-com bubble, but the fastest growing revenue companies ever by far have happened this year. There's a company called Cursor, which is agentic programming, which went from 0 to $1 billion ARR in like 18 months or something ridiculous. And you can't do that as a traditional company. It has to be selling to AI-minded people, because that's a big market, but also the company itself needs to be using AI tools to reach those kind of metrics. So I would encourage everyone to look at an existing software business that's not leaning into AI and maybe rebuilding it from the ground up, or maybe just looking somewhere in your life where you see a problem and you think you can solve it better, faster, and cheaper than an entrenched company.
Okay. So if we need any advice, we can meet you outside, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Anything else you want to add, Trevor, as we wrap up?
Yeah, maybe I can just talk a bit about more specifics in AI. I know this conference is about really broad macro trends, and that's super important. But the way I got interested in AI, kind of a little bit before it became mainstream, was I was looking at how you make it. So AI really needs three ingredients to create AI. You need compute, you need data, and you need algorithms. And so all these models, those are the three ingredients that you need. And so let's go through them one by one. Compute is a commodity now, actually. You can actually price it. The New York Stock Exchange is launching a futures contract for compute. So it's kind of like the new gold. And instead of a gold mine and gold, you have a data center that produces compute. And there's lots of interesting business models emerging there as well. But compute is really the limiting factor in a lot of ways for AI, but we're creating more compute through creating more infrastructure. I see a lot of amazing investments IDB is looking into as well, and that's super important. But what's even more important more exciting is the second one, which is data. And to me, that is the real bottleneck, because compute is fungible. Like anyone can like just buy compute, but data is not. So right now, the models that are getting more and more performant, that are, the rankings and the benchmarks, it's not a compute constraint problem anymore, it's data. So everybody's trying to figure out, how do I get access to more proprietary data that isn't just open internet data that we can monetize? And so right now, the interesting dynamic I'm seeing is the S&P 500, pick a company. So they're terrified right now because if you're like JP Morgan, let's say, you have above you OpenAI, which is completely disintermediating your service business by creating models that can do the work of a million investment bankers. And then below, you have Y Combinator startups that are like solving your problem that JP Morgan does, like in a very targeted way. So you're very like nervous right now. But the one thing JP Morgan and other large companies have that no one else has is proprietary data. And every company right now has a decision to make. Do I monetize my data directly? So for example, Reddit just did a deal with OpenAI for $60 million a quarter to monetize access to its data to train on. But do you think JP Morgan's going to do that? Hell no, because that's the last moat that they have. And if all these models could train on JP Morgan data, it would completely commit suicide. So anyways, I'll leave with that. I know we're out of time, but I think what's a really interesting dynamic right now is, are these companies leaning into AI? Or do they have a data strategy? Are they looking forward? Because if you're not, your days are numbered.
Exciting times. So I really want to encourage everyone here to interact with the AI experience in the IDB group booth. If you haven't been familiar with AI, this is your moment. And Trevor, we have a big announcement coming up later.
Stay tuned.
Excellent. Trevor, thank you for your work in this space and also for thinking that it can be done from the platform of the Caribbean.
Thank you.
Okay.